Hey, Noble Ones. Welcome back to the Noble Ones podcast. Raw talk, real stories. And in this episode, I'm going to be talking about courage and how you can use courage as a way to move through fear, get unstuck, and change certain things in your life. Courage is definitely one of the characteristics of nobility, which is why I love the lion as a representation of the Noble One brand and also just in general resembling courage. I just love lions. So we're going to talk about courage today, and we're going to talk about how to use courage to move forward. But first, what I want to do is just extend a really warm welcome to anyone that is coming back to listen to this episode, and anybody that's coming for the first time. Welcome. This is a podcast and a community where I just wanted to be able to talk about emotions, be vulnerable, be raw, be real, share stories, because every day, things happen to us throughout our day where emotions come up and they can be really charged. And how do we move through them? How do we process them in real time so that we really just don't get stuck, don't get bogged down, and don't get overcome and overwhelmed, so then we end up in a mental health crisis, right? Like depression or anxiety or the various forms of escapism. So that is what we talk about here, and I'm just so happy that you're joining us. And if you will like and subscribe and share this, either the podcast or the YouTube video, I would be extremely appreciative. And also comment, leave feedback. Let me know from an emotional perspective what topics you want to hear about, what types of guests you would want to have on, because we're going to grow this community. We're going to keep talking about emotions no matter what, because I think it's important and it's my mission. So let's get into courage. Courage is an emotion or that allows us to finally kind of move forward. And it's like, I don't think that courage erases fear, but, courage gives us the ability to step into fear. And even if we're afraid, we're still going forward. We're using courage as a way to kind of walk with us through fear. So things, feelings I think that can be associated when you start to have more courage and use courage in your life are you become like more self-assured. You feel more capable. You feel like you've got more skills to accomplish things. I don't know. There's like an aliveness, I think, to having courage. And it allows you to be more giving, more accepting of people because you've used courage to get through challenging times. Then I think it allows you to be more empathic with other people when you see that they're going through a challenging time and they need the courage. It allows you to be more supportive in that situation. So I look at courage as this like ability to say, I can do it, right? I can move forward. I can take that risk. I can try. You're getting out of like the feeling of stuck and you're starting to feel capable of doing something. That's what courage is to me. It's like saying, I can. And when it comes to emotions, the thing about courage is it allows you to actually step into whatever it is that you're going through and just say, you know what? I'm going to give myself the opportunity to actually feel this, to actually make the decision to heal something in my life. And so courage can be used to really overcome emotionally challenging times. And I used courage back in, 2017, and I've shared my story. I think it was the first podcast episode and little snippets of it here and there. But if you're listening for the first time, just a quick recap was back in, end of 2016, early 2017, my life literally just fell apart, or I guess maybe it was pulled out from under me. I was going through a divorce, which was really challenging, trying to decide if we would reconcile. My brother passed away. He was struggling with addiction. And then I was let go of a job that was like the last thing that I was clinging on to, right? Like had my identity and, well, at least I still have my job. Well, then that got taken away from me. So it's like this triple storm of things. And I just fell apart, and I just like went into this black hole. I'd almost call it like an abyss, right? And I questioned, what's the point? I've just lost everything that I cared about, and I don't want to be here anymore. And what pulled me out of it, honestly, was the courage. It was courage, the courage to get better, and the courage to say, okay, if I look at the common denominator and I don't project anything outward onto anybody else, like it's me. It was me. Like, what did I need to change in my life to not have to feel the way I felt in those 3 months? And it was invoking courage to get through it. That is what actually started to pull me out of the depression, to say, why have I struggled with this for so long? And what is it that I need to fix? And it was me. I needed to really start looking at myself and taking accountability for where I was holding all of my anger. Like we talked about in the last episode, I was literally so mad at myself, projecting all this anger against myself, which, was keeping me stuck, was keeping me depressed. So I finally had the courage to start looking at how unaware I actually was emotionally. I was emotional, being sensitive, being empathic, being able, to cry at the drop of a hat. That doesn't mean I was processing my emotions. So I had to dig in. I had to go back and look at where all this shit came from as a kid. And it was just my perception of growing up in a home where my brother was getting attention, albeit negative. I didn't get my emotional needs met. So I came up with all these different ways in the world to try to feel loved, to try to feel recognized, appreciated, whatever it was. And then, build up over decades. And what do you have, right? A lot of repressed feelings. So I used courage to pull me out of my depression. And it was a commitment, right? But it's beautiful because it led me here, it led me here to be sitting in front of a camera, doing a podcast or doing a video and talking to other people to hopefully empower you to realize it doesn't matter what you're going through. If you can elicit the courage to take a step forward into the change or into the fear, I promise you will get through it. And so I want to share another story with you about courage. And I love to use my kids because we learn so much through our kids. We think that like we're supposed to be telling them what to do. But if you really just observe your kids, gosh, they have so much to teach us. And so having kind of shifted how I parent and stuff, and my kids are older, now I'm in this place where I really just get to observe and be there to guide and support them if they need me. But it was really amazing to watch both of my sons. But in this particular situation, my older son was feeling like he needed a change, right? And needed to move to a new place, wanted to get out of Denver, grew up here, try something new. And so he did that. And he literally packed his stuff. He went without a job. He didn't know anyone, and he moved to another state. Okay. And so I'm just in awe, like watching this happen. And I saw it unfold. I saw that he was afraid. He was actually communicating that he was afraid. And then he was doing all those things like, well, maybe I should get a job first. Well, maybe I'll wait till, 3 months from now. Well, maybe I'll wait until, and so that's what we do. Our ego steps in and says, no, I got to keep you safe. Like, if you step into that, fear of change, something might happen. So all those doubts and those limiting beliefs jump back into your head. And it's like, so I'm just observing it, right? But I know he's going to get it. And so he did. Like he finally was just like, screw it. I am out of here. And he did. He packed his stuff and he moved. So now he's thriving, right? He's settled in a new place. He got a new job. He's excelling in his job. And I talked to him recently, and he was now in this next place of, well, I'd be happy if this, or, I'm feeling like that, or as soon as this one thing happens. And so what I had to do was back him up and be like, do you realize in 5 months what you were able to accomplish? Do you understand the courage that it took for you to take that risk, which most people my age, like completely like adults, stay stuck. They don't say, you know what, I feel like I'm supposed to do something else. And then they just go and do it. And so I had to remind him that he stepped into his fear with courage, and he took action to pack his stuff, to move, to trust his intuition that was telling him to get to another place. And I said, and look at your confidence. Look at how you're excelling in your job. You're feeling different about how you're interacting with people. You're out there, making new friends. Like that has built up his confidence. And so it's like, you have to respect yourself each time you step forward into a fear. And the more you do it and the more you practice it, you'll start to be like, okay, this is just fear, but I've done this before. And, this isn't the first time he's done it. It's been over the last few years. I've watched him overcome fear a few times. But what we forget is when we're the ones like going through whatever it is on our journey, we've got to go back and reflect sometimes and say, okay, it took courage to get from wherever that place was to where I am now. It took courage for me to literally stay on planet Earth to get to where I am now. It literally took so much courage for me to decide to stay. And it took so much courage for him to move to a new place and fully trust that once he got there, everything would fall into place for him. So it builds your self-empowerment. But again, there's this whole process of through emotional awareness that you have to recognize, stop self-sabotaging, start self-loving, start having this awareness for your greatness, for the things that you have accomplished. So that's what courage can do. Courage will literally move you through fear. It won't erase it, but it'll allow you to step into it. So I want to ask you guys, I came up with this list of questions because I feel like these are pretty common things that I hear from clients, that I hear from friends, that, you just even see on the internet. I mean, these are just common themes. So I'm going to read off like 5 questions, and I want to see if any of these relate to you. And then we'll talk about how you can use courage to move forward if you're feeling like this. So 1, are you staying in a job, a relationship, or any situation, even though you feel disrespected, unappreciated, or like it's time to move on? Number 2, does your happiness or does your unhappiness feel paralyzing right now? Are you feeling numb? Are you feeling like there's just something not right in your life, but you don't know what it is? Number 3, have you been happy and everything's been going along great, and now all of a sudden it feels like things aren't as fulfilling, things aren't exciting you as much anymore? And the 4th one is, are you afraid to let go of something because of the security that you have? And then finally, do you feel like if you make a change, you might fail, or you might fail trying something new, and the thought of failure is just unbearable? So think about that. Do any of those apply to you? And if they do, you may be battling with needing to get some courage to step into change. And I want to give you 4 things that I think can help you start to wrap your head around moving forward. and using courage as a tool to step into fear. So the first one is awareness. Notice what you're afraid of. So if one of those questions kind of like triggered you, like, oh my God, that's me. What was underneath that trigger? What is the underlying feeling beneath the fear? What are you afraid of? Is it afraid of change? Is it afraid of failure? So you have to identify that. And then you have to figure out, where is that coming from? Where is that fear coming from? Did something happen in the past where you tried something and you failed, and now there's a belief associated with your fear and you're needing courage to step into it? And then also with awareness is be aware of what your values are. Revisit the values and go, okay, so the reason why I'm wanting to make these changes, but I'm not doing it and I'm afraid to. But if you really lay out your values, you might see that just that alone, you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I mean, I'm in this relationship and we're not growing anymore. We don't have anything in common. We're not even valuing the same things like communication or intimacy or whatever it is. Then that makes sense. So then you're like, okay, then why am I blocking that? Because I know where my values are and they're not aligned. So that might give you some courage. So it's the awareness again. The second thing is the beliefs. So what is it that is keeping you in any situation that you know you're supposed to be stepping out of, or that you have a desire to step out of? And there's always usually a limiting belief attached to it. And that just means you have an attachment to something that either happened in your past or something that you're afraid of, that you're making up a story around. So you've got to look at the belief that's associated with the reason you're not taking that step. And it's almost like, so where did the I can't do it come from? So at the beginning, when I was saying like, oh, I can face my feelings, I can take a risk, I can make a change, I can step into that fear. Those are all courageous statements. If you find yourself going, oh, I just can't. I can't leave that job because I've got kids in college. I can't leave that relationship because what will my parents think? I can't walk away from that friendship because, we've got all these other mutual friends. I can't start an exercise program because I don't have time. Like so figure out where the I can't is related to. And then the third thing is it's like you have to shift the focus. So instead of focusing on what won't happen or what could happen or all those unknowns that we always make up in our head, what do you actually have to gain? What would you actually gain if you had the courage to make a change? If you switched careers, look at how much growth you would have. Maybe it would send you on a totally different trajectory to climb some corporate ladder. Or maybe you would start your own business and realize how aligned you finally are with your passion for art or photography or whatever that is. Like, what do you have to gain? The personal growth, new friendships, new relationships, a better physique, depending on whatever your goal is. What do you have to gain versus what do you have to lose if you are courageous to make the change? And then the last thing, the fourth thing, is have some sort of a plan. Like, I'm not all about like having to have every little thing mapped out. I'm actually kind of bad at that, to be honest. But I think it's good to have clarity, have a vision. Okay, so I'm here, I'm at point A, and I want to get to point B. And so what could that look like? What would be the steps that I have to take? And then focus on just the next step. What do I need to stir up the courage in me to take this first step? Because if you start thinking about, well, it's going to take, let's say it's leaving a relationship. Oh my God, what's going to happen when I tell her? And then, oh my God, I got to tell the kids. And then we're going to have to sell the house. And then I'm going to have to move. And I'm going to have to get a job. And you start thinking about all the things. Well, what are you going to do? You're not going to do anything. You're going to stay stuck because you overwhelmed yourself. So it's like one step at a time. You're clear where you need to go on the path. You have some sort of a plan that you can hold yourself accountable to, and then you just figure out what is the next step that I need the courage to take. So to just go over those again, to get the courage to move forward, number one, become aware of what you're afraid of, what's keeping you stuck. Number two, reframe any beliefs that are limiting you, that aren't true, and that you need to change in your mind about, I can't. Shift your focus is the third one, about what you're going to gain from it, how you're going to grow, what it could lead to, all the positive things. Stay there instead of the fears, right? And then finally, have a plan. Just know where you're going and then figure out what the next step is, where you need to find the courage. So I feel like courage is just, again, this noble quality. And, we're faced with so many fears, whether it's in our own personal lives because of self-limiting things or things that have happened to us, environments we've grown up in, or we've got like everything that's going on in the world, the things that you're hearing when you're out and about. Like there is so much fear. Fear is an energy, and there's a lot of it out there. So the best way to control it is within yourself, and courage is a great way to do it. There's nothing that you guys can't face, and just believe in yourself, trust your own emotional awareness, and use that as a tool to dig deeper into things, to connect with yourself, to understand why you're holding yourself back, because no one can make the change but you. People can be there to support you. People can be there to guide you, but it really takes the time and the commitment to look within yourself to figure these things out. So hopefully you guys are going to go out and have an amazing, courageous week. You'll be able to look at anything that might be, up for question, up for change. And these tips will help you know how to move forward and through that. So stay noble. And until next time, much love.